It was 5 a.m., and the sun hadn't fully risen yet. On my way home from the hospital, my car's headlights illuminated the dim road ahead. I rubbed my tired eyes while gripping the steering wheel, feeling somewhat relieved knowing I'd be home soon. The drive home after night shifts was always a quiet time. My name is Ashley Watson. I've been working as a pediatrician at the city hospital for 10 years now. My brown hair, which reaches my shoulders, still bears the clear marks from wearing a hairband at the hospital. My makeup is starting to fade, but I don't have the energy to touch it up before getting home. As I parked in the garage, I noticed a soft light seeping through the second-floor window. Sophia must be awake. It was unusual for her to be up at this hour. "I'm home," I called out. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. My 14-year-old daughter appeared, her long black hair swaying, wearing her glasses. "Welcome home, Mom." "I woke up early today," Sophia said with a slightly apologetic expression. But for me, coming off a night shift, being able to talk with my daughter this early in the morning was an unexpected gift. Our house is located in a quiet residential area in the suburbs of Minneapolis. It's a 20-year-old single-family home that I bought with the divorce settlement 7 years ago. Not too big, not too small, just the right size for a mother and daughter. "Shall I make breakfast?" "I'll make it." "Mom, you should go take a shower." Watching Sophia's back as she stood in the kitchen, I felt proud of how much she'd grown. Now in 8th grade, she had become quite capable with household chores. She was responsible for washing dishes and cleaning her room, and lately, she'd shown interest in cooking too. After showering and changing clothes, the aroma of toast wafted from the kitchen. The table was set with sunny-side-up eggs, salad, and hot coffee. "Thank you, this looks delicious." Was the night shift tough? We had 2 emergency cases. But both patients pulled through. Sophia always shows understanding about my work as a doctor. For days of being on call each week, 6 night shifts per month. Our irregular schedule often limits the time we can spend together. That's why we treasure the time we do have together. We've made it a habit to always eat dinner together, and on weekends, we cook together or go shopping. "Hey, Mom," Sophia said while breaking off a piece of toast. "For my next art assignment, we have to draw a family portrait." "Oh? What kind of picture will you draw?" "I haven't decided yet." She pushed up her glasses thoughtfully. "Maybe you working at the hospital." Those words made my heart warm. I wondered how my daughter saw me. Sophia has an artistic sense. Though introverted and quiet, she comes alive when drawing. She's passionate about her activities in the art club, and her teachers think highly of her work. "Oh, that reminds me," I said. "Your dad's going to call next Saturday." Sophia's hands paused for a moment. Her relationship with her father, James, is complicated. I married him 10 years ago when I was a medical resident at the university hospital. He was a successful investment banker who became so absorbed in his work that he neglected our family. With frequent business trips and prioritizing his career over family time. When Sophia was 7, we decided to divorce. I got custody, and he pays child support regularly. However, father and daughter only meet about twice a year. "Okay. I understand." Sophia's response was matter of fact, but I could sense her mixed feelings. After the divorce, she suddenly started showing more mature expressions. Looking at the clock, it was already past 6 a.m. Sophia, we should start getting ready. You have morning art club activities today, right? Yes. I'm continuing work on my oil painting. My daughter's voice lifted slightly. Seeing moments like these reassured me that I had made the right choice. Even if we didn't fit the ideal family model, we had built our own kind of happiness. I could hear Sophia going back upstairs to change into her uniform. I hurriedly touched up my makeup. Concealing fatigue with makeup had become a habit. The morning sun began streaming through the windows. As if announcing the start of a new day, gentle filtered sunlight softly illuminated our home. As I began another day as both a mother and a doctor, I wished this peaceful daily life would continue forever. As the seasons shifted from spring to early summer, my work had entered a fulfilling period. My reputation in the pediatrics department was excellent, with strong trust from patients. Recently, the department head had even approached me about a promotion to chief resident. Dr. Watson, the patient in examination room 3 is ready. Nodding to the new nurse's voice, I reviewed the chart. In the examination room, a 5-year-old boy waited with his mother. When he saw me, he gripped his mother's hand tightly, looking a bit nervous. What seems to be the matter? I asked gently, and the boy gradually began to relax. It was the accumulation of such daily consultations that had led to my current reputation. As a single mother, balancing work and parenting hadn't been easy, but I was living a fulfilling life without financial concerns. Doctor, my child really loves you, the mother said with a smile after the examination. Earning children's trust is the greatest joy as a doctor. My reputation at the hospital continued to grow. I was recently appointed as a mentor for young doctors. Though it meant more responsibility, I found it rewarding. My colleagues trusted me deeply, and our teamwork was well known throughout the hospital. Sophia was also doing well in middle school. She was immersed in art club activities and maintained high grades. Though she didn't have many close friends, she seemed to be managing school life at her own pace. On holidays, we would go shopping at the Mall of America or watch movies together. Last weekend, we went to Target to buy new art supplies at Sophia's request. Her passion for art seemed to grow stronger by the day. Mom, I want this paint set. That's fine. But haven't art supplies been getting expensive lately? It's okay, she said with a smile. But somewhere in that expression, I thought I saw a shadow that hadn't been there before. However, about 2 months ago, I started noticing concerning changes. The first thing I noticed was the change in her eating habits. Sophia, you've hardly touched your salmon meunière. Sorry. I'm not very hungry. Dishes she used to love now went barely touched. She started skipping breakfast more often. Food I put in the refrigerator was increasingly being thrown away untouched. Her sleep patterns had also become irregular. Her room light would stay on until 2 or 3 in the morning. On holidays, she often slept until nearly noon. Walking past her room, I could see the bluish glow of her smartphone seeping through the door. You've been staying up late a lot lately. Is something wrong? No, just homework and thinking about things. After that vague response, Sophia returned to her room. She spent more time staring at her smartphone, refusing to let it go until the screen went dark. Sometimes she would jump at the sound of incoming messages. Concerning reports started coming from school. Her math test scores were lower than usual, and she was falling behind in submitting English homework. My usually meticulous daughter was increasingly forgetting to do her homework. When her homeroom teacher called, I was hurriedly walking down the hospital corridor to take the call. She's been spacing out during class more often. Is there anything concerning at home? I'm sorry. I think it's just typical teenage changes. As a pediatrician, that was my assessment. Too much interference could be counterproductive. Watch over her and provide support when needed. That was my professional judgment. However, the concerning changes continued. Unfamiliar stationery and books appeared on her desk, and sometimes her wallet seemed unusually empty. Her expenses seemed to be increasing, but I didn't know where or what she was buying. I myself was busier than ever. The number of emergency surgeries had increased, and I was now responsible for training new doctors. My return times were irregular, and I had less time to talk with Sophia properly. Dr. Watson, there's a request from the emergency room. I understand, I'll go right away. My smartphone in my white coat pocket had an unread message from Sophia. A short question asking, "Will you be late again today?" I headed to the emergency room without being able to reply. In those hectic days, I had dismissed my daughter's changes as just teenage fluctuations. As a pediatrician and as a mother, should have been more sensitive. But I didn't understand then. The light in Sophia's room that wouldn't go out at night, the suspicious messages being sent, the cash disappearing from her wallet. All of these were warning signs of what was about to happen. When I returned home after my night shift, dragging my tired body, Sophia was already in her uniform, about to put on her shoes. Her shoelaces were tied more carefully than usual, which somehow felt unnatural. "Welcome home, Mom." "Sorry, I'm leaving early today." "This early?" "I have morning art club activities." Her behavior seemed timed to match my unusually early return from the night shift. But there seemed to be a slight tremor in her voice. She wasn't carrying her usual sketchbook, and instead clutched an unfamiliar bag. "What about breakfast?" "I'll take some bread with me, don't worry." On the kitchen counter, there was a half-cut piece of bread. The jam jar hadn't been opened. Without any sign of preparing breakfast, Sophia hurriedly left the house. As I watched her leave, something felt off. The pleats in her uniform skirt were disheveled, and her blouse collar was messy. But with my exhausted mind after the all-night shift, I didn't have the energy to think about what it might mean. Just as I was about to go to bed after taking a shower, my phone by the pillow rang. The school's number was displayed on the screen. "Mrs. Watson, I apologize, but could you come to the school right away?" The school counselor's heavy voice resonated through the receiver. I could hear people talking in hushed voices in the background. "Did something happen to my daughter? I'd like to discuss the details with you in person." The way those words trailed off suggested something serious. My heart started racing. I hurriedly changed clothes and drove to school. The journey from home to school felt longer than the usual route from the hospital to home. The usually 5-minute drive felt like an eternity today. Every red light filled me with growing anxiety. When I arrived at the school, the vice principal was standing at the staff entrance. His usually calm face was strangely tense today. An unusual silence enveloped the school building, with a faint lingering scent of fire trucks in the air. Several teachers stood in the hallway, averting their eyes as soon as they saw me. There were no students in sight. They must have been gathered in the gymnasium for an all-school assembly or something similar. "This way, please." Walking down the hallway led by the vice principal. The sunlight streaming through the windows felt unnaturally bright. The place that should have been bustling with students' voices was now filled with a heavy atmosphere. When we reached the hallway in front of the principal's office, there was Sophia. She sat alone in a chair, shoulders slumped, head down. Her uniform was disheveled, her skirt wrinkled. The sketchbook she usually carried was nowhere to be seen. The unfamiliar bag I had noticed this morning was also gone. 2 police officers stood beside her. A male officer in his 50s had a calm demeanor that suggested experience, while a young female officer occasionally glanced at Sophia with concern. Their presence spoke to the seriousness of the situation. "Sophia." At my voice, my daughter flinched but couldn't raise her face. Her long hair hid her face, but I could see tears falling beyond it. "Mrs. Watson," the male officer stepped forward. His movement was careful. "We need to talk to you." He pointed to a security camera monitor in the hallway. The screen showed surveillance camera footage. A date and time blinked in the corner of the screen. The footage showed events from this morning. Sophia entering the second-floor girls' bathroom. Her steps were a bit quick, as if she was conscious of her surroundings. Then, she comes out in a hurried manner, as if being chased by something. She seemed to be clutching something small in her hand. Then, faint smoke began rising from the gap in the bathroom door. The screen mercilessly recorded the gradually thickening smoke. What is this?" My knees nearly gave out, and I almost collapsed on the spot. The female officer quickly offered me a chair. We confirmed a fire had started. Fortunately, the sprinklers activated quickly, and it didn't escalate into something more serious, but... The officer's voice echoed distantly. But my eyes didn't leave my daughter's back. Her hunched shoulders trembling slightly. Her uniform looking smaller than usual. None of the lively expression she used to have while drawing at her desk remained. "Sophia, why?" Hot tears welled up in my eyes as I questioned. I had dealt with many children in pediatrics. Though I should have been able to understand their pain and sadness, I had completely failed to notice the darkness in my own child's heart. The vice principal's sigh echoed heavily in the hallway. The third stall in the second-floor girls' bathroom was the point of origin. I nodded silently to the police officer's explanation. 30 minutes had passed since the questioning began in the principal's office. Outside the window, white sprinkler water sparkled in the sunlight. Thanks to the early activation of the sprinklers, we fortunately avoided major fire damage. However, the officer placed an evidence bag on the desk. Inside was a burned mobile phone. A familiar red case. It was Sophia's phone. "We attempted to question your daughter, but she continues to remain silent." Would you cooperate with the inspection of her belongings? I nodded again. Words wouldn't come out. Sophia beside me kept her head down. I could see her shoulders trembling slightly from time to time. The principal opened his mouth heavily. In light of this situation, the school will be temporarily closed from today. We have already begun sending notifications to all parents. Following these words, the vice principal added, we are also starting to receive inquiries from media outlets. We will handle this with student privacy protection as our top priority. Outside the window, the sound of news vehicles' engines could be heard starting up. When we left the building after the questioning, several cars were parked in the parking lot. I could see other parents too. Some quickly averted their eyes when they saw us, while others tried to secretly take photos with their phones. When I started the car's engine, my smartphone vibrated. It was a message from a colleague saying rumors were starting to spread on social media. Dr. Watson, perhaps you should consider taking some time off. A message from my hospital superior had also arrived. When we got home, Sophia disappeared into her room without saying a word. I collapsed onto the living room sofa. Why did this happen? What was in my daughter's heart? Was there something I should have noticed? Memories raced through my mind like a film reel. The days of repeated night shifts and on-call duties that reduced time with my daughter. Times when I was too tired from work to properly engage with her. The signs I dismissed as typical teenage changes. As a pediatrician, I should have been able to understand many children's hearts. But I had missed the cry from my daughter's heart, who should have been closest to me. The bread from this morning remained untouched in the kitchen. 2 rice bowls lined the cupboard, and Sophia's favorite yogurt was arranged in the refrigerator. Our usual daily life suddenly felt distant. Looking up the stairs, I could hear sounds from my daughter's room upstairs. I start to approach, but my feet stop. What should I say now? What should I ask? Dusk approached, and the house gradually darkened. I didn't even have the energy to turn on the lights. I just kept thinking in the darkness. What was my daughter trying to say? What should I have been able to do? How should we face this going forward? The doorbell rang, and I squinted at the incoming light. The female police officer had returned. We found new evidence. In her hands was another evidence bag. Inside was a burned piece of paper. The fragments of readable text suggested new developments in the investigation to come. The sound of rain outside intensified the waves of regret washing over me. The light from my daughter's room upstairs flickered on the rain-wet window. That night, I greeted the morning without sleeping. My smartphone was flooded with concerned messages from colleagues and acquaintances. There were many calls from unknown numbers too. They must be from the media. The hospital formally recommended I take a leave of absence. My superior's words, "Don't worry about your patients," filled me with both gratitude and apologetic feelings. My hands trembled as I stood in the kitchen preparing breakfast. I dropped and broke my favorite mug. As I collected the fragments, tears suddenly started flowing. The everyday morning scene now felt like a distant memory. The casual conversations with my daughter, every moment we spent together, now felt precious in hindsight. There was still no sound from upstairs. I stood in the kitchen, unsure whether to bring up breakfast. On the morning of the third day after the fire, the police contacted me. Outside, hints of autumn were beginning to appear. The maple leaves in the garden were starting to change color. We've received new testimonies. Could you come to the school? There was an unprecedented urgency in the voice on the phone. I quickly got ready and headed to the police station. My car carried my anxiety and impatience through the morning rush hour traffic. In a room at the police station, I learned shocking facts. Multiple female students had come forward. Their testimonies were surprisingly consistent. And they all pointed to one teacher, James Wilson, the science teacher. The first to speak up was a senior from the art club. Her brave action encouraged other students to come forward. Though fragmentary, the girls' testimonies revealed clear facts. Their hands trembled on the witness stand, and though they sometimes stumbled over their words, they continued to tell the truth. That evening, Sophia finally spoke at home. "Mom, I couldn't take it anymore." In a trembling voice, my daughter began to tell me about what had been happening for the past 6 months. The sexual abuse disguised as science tutoring. Evidence left on her mobile phone. Threatening messages from the teacher, and inappropriate photos and videos from him. In panic, Sophia had tried to burn her phone containing all the evidence using a lighter from her uniform pocket. That resulted in the bathroom fire. At first, it was just after-school tutoring. But gradually, Sophia's words were halting. I held her cold hands tightly. It wasn't just me, but I couldn't tell anyone. He said, he would ruin my future, my chances for recommended admission, my artistic talent, everything. Tear-filled eyes looked at me. Those eyes were filled with pain and fear she had been carrying alone. He would often call out to me after club activities. In the empty science room, saying he wanted to show me some materials. I was speechless at Sophia's confession. I couldn't help but blame myself for not noticing the abuse happening right in front of me, both as a doctor and as a mother. Night duty until late, training new doctors, increasing patients. All of it sounded like mere excuses. Why didn't I notice? Why couldn't I protect her? Waves of self-reproach washed over me. The investigation progressed rapidly. The despicable acts disguised as after-school tutoring. Girls forced into silence through threats and intimidation. The school's inadequate management system was also revealed one after another. Blind spots in security cameras. Lax management of after-school classroom use. The ineffective student counseling system. The problems were structural. Faculty meetings continued late into the night day after day. Angry shouts flew at parent meetings. Various speculations circulated on social media, and the media continued their stakeout at the school gates daily. The entire local community was wrapped in great shock and anxiety. Through all this, Sophia was slowly trying to reclaim her true self. "You know, I started drawing again," Sophia whispered one morning, as we shared breakfast together for the first time in a while. A month later, Mr. Wilson was arrested. The school announced a complete review of its management system. A support group for victims was also established. Among parents, a committee for preventing recurrence was formed. Efforts had begun to ensure such a tragedy would never repeat. Every Wednesday afternoon, we attend counseling together. About 3 weeks after starting counseling, Sophia opened her sketchbook for the first time in a while. Though her hands still trembled, she began drawing with sure strokes. "I found something I want to draw again." Those words brought tears to my eyes. Weekly counseling. My daughter's gradual steps forward. The presence of supportive friends. Everything was a step toward hope. In the counseling room's waiting area, we meet other victims' families. We who couldn't even face each other at first have now formed a small support group. "I'm really sorry about back then. But it's okay now. Because I have you, Mom." At those words, I held my daughter tightly. I felt this wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. I felt truly proud of my daughter's strength as she moved forward, despite being hurt and suffering. I decided to return to the hospital. And this time, I volunteered to specialize in mental care for abused children. I wanted my experience to help others carrying similar pain. "Let's set up a new specialized outpatient clinic." I nodded firmly at my superior's suggestion. A place where I could use my experience in a new way. It would surely become a place of healing for me too. Outside the window, autumn winds rustled through the trees. Golden ginkgo leaves danced as they fell in the schoolyard. Gentle sunlight illuminated a mother and daughter's new step forward. Next month, Sophia will resume her art club activities. Her new sketch will be displayed on the club room wall. It was a drawing of a single flower on pure white paper. A small but strongly blooming flower. I believed that her drawings would someday become a light that heals someone's heart. And I'm certain that this experience will deepen the bond between mother and daughter even more. In the season when Christmas decorations adorned the streets, Sophia's exhibition was being held in a small gallery. Among the displayed works were pieces born from that incident. A ray of light breaking through darkness. A wounded butterfly spreading its wings. And the back view of a mother and daughter holding hands. Many visitors were local people who knew about the incident. In a corner of the exhibition room, the victim support group's activity report was also being presented. Sophia's courage had become a catalyst for others with similar experiences to speak up. The school had established new counseling services and opened a 24-hour hotline. Regular training for faculty and staff had also begun. At my hospital, a specialized outpatient clinic for abuse victims had started. As a mother and as a doctor, I hope to turn this experience into strength for the next generation. "Mom, look," Sophia showed me her new sketchbook. "It's for my spring exhibition." There was a young tree reaching toward the light. Though there were scars on its trunk, new buds were beginning to grow strongly. Beyond the freezing season, our new story was surely moving forward.